everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to do some ombre ink blending with some Clair stamps to make this card. So the first thing, I am using an A2 size card, but what I have done is actually taken a piece of 8.5 by 11, cut it in half, so it's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and then instead of scoring it 5.5, I scored it 5 3/4. Then I cut 1/4 of an inch off the bottom of that piece, the longer piece, and that gave me a 5.5 inch long card by 4 1/4, but the front flap is only 5 inches long. So I've got that little 1/2 inch strip there at the bottom where I can add my sentiment later. Now all the supplies, everything I'm using will be listed down in the description box below. And I will be using that stamp set that I designed from Clair Stamps. I will leave that listed down in the description box as well. Now the first thing I want to do is actually blend that front flap of my card. Now I'm doing some ombre ink blending. Now, ombre ink blending is super easy. The first thing, the only thing that you really need to get right is your color choice. To do that, I like to swatch out my inks. Whenever I get a new ink, I automatically just swatch it out and add it to my little swatch chart. Then I can go through those inks and choose 3 that are really similar in tone. Now each one is going to be a little bit darker than the next, so I am starting off with the color it was dried marigold. Now I am putting my lightest at the top and I'm going to work my way down to the bottom, which is going to be the darkest. Now once I have a good layer of that dried marigold down, I'm going to move to my mid-tone. Now that color is Ripe Persimmon. Each time that I move down a color, I am using that previous color and blending back and forth between the two. So every time I'm blending, I'm always using 2 colors. Now for my project today, I am using my mini ink blending tool, but any sort of blending tool that you have on hand that you like that works well will work for this technique. All you need to do is make sure you choose the right colors. Now my final color is going to be Abandoned Coral. This is the darkest color, and just like before, now that I'm done with my top layer, I can go ahead and put my cap back on my dried marigold, and now I'm going to switch out that blender to my Abandoned Coral, and I'll be blending back and forth between the Ripe Persimmon and the Abandoned Coral color now. Now I'll go ahead and continue to blend between these two, but you can see that I kind of have no space to put my fingers anymore to hold this down in place. Whenever you get to that point, make sure that you pull a piece of scrap paper onto that, especially if you're using distress inks. The oils from your fingers can move those inks around and leave fingerprints. So just so you get a nice smooth surface, just use that scrap piece of paper. Now to keep the back of my card clean, I did use some delicate painter's tape. This stuff is super easy to get off, even if you've done a lot of ink blending over the top. So I really encourage you to look in to this delicate painter's tape to hold everything down and in place. So I went ahead and took that off. It had some ink over the top, and I replaced that with a new layer on the top to keep this nice and clean, the back of my card. And now I'm going to use that stamp set and stamp this quick background. Now I am using all the little smaller stamps, and I have just loaded them all onto acrylic blocks, one on the front and one on the back, and I'm switching up between them and stamping them all with VersaFine Clair, excuse my head please, in Pine Cone. So this is a nice brown color, and because all of the colors that I used on the background, the ink blending, have kind of a brown undertone, I wanted to go with a brown ink instead of a black ink. I thought it looked a little bit better. I'm just moving these every which way and filling them in to create this nice background. And then once it was done, I have this gorgeous ombre background with all of those flowers and leaves stamped on the background. But then at the bottom, I have that nice white strip because of the way I scored this and then cut it up. Now with that strip, I'm going to add my sentiment. I like the really long verses that are included in the My Heart stamp set. Just full disclosure, I also designed that one from Clair Stamps, but it has these really long, nice verses in it, and it fills out the bottom of this card really well. So I'm using one of those verses and stamping it with the same VersaFine Clair and Pinecone ink. I am using my Misty, and I'm using my Creative Corners to pop that up and away from the bottom of this so I can get some really good placement, especially since it's down there at the bottom of the card. And once that was stamped, that's the card. It's a one layer, very simple card, but adding that little bit of an ombre background, that little nice sentiment strip at the bottom, it really pulled the whole thing together, and it didn't need anything else. But I love the way this bright and colorful card came together. It was so simple and easy. It only took about 20 minutes to make. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and a few tips and tricks on ink blending and creating those sentiment strips down at the bottom. That is going to do it for me today. All the supplies that I use will be listed down in the description box below. Thanks for watching and happy crafting!